Hi guys, recording episode 4. So I guess I'll just go in. This is Stat Sergeant Rose, Sergeant Span, Sergeant First Class Span, and Stat Sergeant Piper.
It's two ends on Span.
Yeah, 2 ends on the Span for the Instagram. I'll fix that on the closing slides for tonight. So this is the rabbit hole. Like I said, episode 4. We're going to go into today. We're going to talk a little bit about the enlistment process, and then just kind of give our background on it. Like, what was it like when we joined? I joined 12 years ago, and the enlistment process has changed a little bit since I came in, and I can only imagine how much has changed since Sergeant Span came in, or Sergeant Piper is the most recent. So we'll go into it. Just go into it, I guess. Like, what were you guys doing? What were Sergeant Span? We went into your Army story a little bit. What were you doing before you joined? And then what kind of made you come in to talk to the recruiter? And then what was it like when you did?
So I was a high school graduate. I was working at CVS. I needed a job because I graduated.
Shut your DDS off.
Oh yeah, let me go grab that real fast. I was wondering what. There it is. I don't know who would be calling me right now. But, I'm a popular guy today.
Yeah.
I had to hold the podcast off like 30 minutes because of how popular I am. But so I needed a job. I worked at McDonald's all throughout high school, and I knew fast food wasn't going to be what it was that I was going to do. And so then I ended up getting a job at CVS. Crazy story. I got hired in at $6 an hour. And within 3 days, I got a 25-cent raise. 24 hours later, I got another 25-cent raise. So I was making $6.50 an hour with promises to become a manager.
Big money.
And, yeah, especially nowadays, they're talking $15 an hour for minimum wage, right? Almost double or over double what I was making at the time. But so, there was promises to, eventually run the store and, move up within the corporate ladder of CVS, which at the time, 18 years old sounded like a decent plan. But one of my high school, my best friend, one of his friends had joined the Army. And so he had asked us to go down and talk to the recruiter so he could, potentially get promoted. Little did we know, for him to get promoted, that we had to enlist, right? We thought we just had to go down there and talk to the recruiter, and that helped him out. So anyways, talked to the recruiter. Sounded like, a great plan, better than working at CVS. So I started the process, and I ended up enlisting out of an office that was nowhere near where I lived. So it was kind of a ordeal to actually do it. But I had a decent recruiter. He wasn't like super great or super bad, but I was a crazy story. I had to have a waiver. We'll just leave it at that. I didn't murder anybody. I didn't, no super real bad things, but a couple of dumb choices when I was a small kid. So unlike every time this alarm, I'm sorry. Sorry, I got an alarm and I keep forgetting to shut it off.
You're good, man.
So anyways, my process was slightly different than what most people's process are going to be. And, I joined, took the test, actually did pretty well, which surprised me. Not that I was a dumb kid or anything, but I ended up going down for the physical and passed the physical. And the career counselor was like, "Hey, we're ready to, bring you in and pick a job." I said, "Well, wait a minute. My recruiter told me to wait for him." So MEPS was an hour and a half away from where I lived and where I enlisted out of.
You're super laggy right now. I don't know what's going on with your camera. Yeah, everything is.
Am I back?
Yeah, it's not bad. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. It's just like you were like freezing and jumping all over the place. So.
Yeah, it's probably because Sergeant Hayes was just sending me a text. Like, obviously the world has come to an end and I'm the savior. So, so I'm dragging this story out. Let me try to shorten it up.
Why?
Basically, my recruiter couldn't be there with me to pick my job. He told me he was going to help me pick a job and get the best incentives possible. The career counselor said, hey, you can wait for him or and sit out here all day, or you can come in with me. So, obviously I go in and sit down with him, and he goes, what do you want to do? I said, well, I don't really know, but like I said, my recruiter told me to wait for him. And he goes, so he does epic move, right? He stands up in this office with, 4 or 5 other people, and he's like, hey, everyone, this young man needs his recruiter to hold his hand to pick his job. So, obviously any 18-year-old's going to be like, whoa, bro, I don't need no one to hold my hand. I got this. And so he goes, what do you like to do? I said, well, I like to work with my hands. I went to school for construction. And he goes, well, how would you like to build stuff and then blow it up? Duh, let's do it. So he grabs this giant book, because this is pre-internet. They had just graduated from stone tablets and hammers. And he slaps it down. He goes, read this. So, there was a 400-word paragraph. I understood about 10 of the words. He leaves. He comes back. He goes, all right, good to go. I just have one question. You want $4,000 for 3 years or $8,000 for 4 years? I go, look, wait a minute. I don't even know what this job is. He goes, nope, already called the Rock. It's reserved. I just need to know 3 for 4 or 4 for 8. I guess the math only adds up. 4 for 8. Sign me up. So recruiter finally comes and picks me up and takes us, there was like 5 or 6 of us that he takes back to the office. And, he throws in a DVD. For those of you that don't know, it's a little round disc, kind of shiny on one side. Throws it in, it starts playing all the different jobs that the Army has to offer. And so, everyone's like getting 1 to 1.5 minute videos of what it is that they're going to be doing, and they're all excited. And here comes my video. It's like 8.5 seconds long, and it's some craziness, right? And then it's done. And I'm like, whoa, replay that. Like, what was that guy doing? Why was he face down in the dirt with a tiny stick? So they rewind it, and it's, the soldier low crawling, and he's got his fiberglass rod, and he's poking into the dirt. I'm like, what is he doing? I go, well, he's looking for landmines. I go, what? No one told me that I'd be looking for landmines with my face. They said I'd build stuff and blow it up. He goes, well, yeah, you'll do that too, but you also look for landmines. And so that's, how I started my career as a combat engineer.
Nice. Dang, dude. Hey, so are you connected to your internet on your phone?
I don't know how to check. Am I laggy again?
Yeah, you're like super laggy. That whole time you were like really laggy. So if you just drag your thing down, you should be able to see if you're connected.
Yeah, I am. Give me 1 second. Let me disconnect a few things. If someone else wants to. Yeah,
no worries. I didn't know what was going on. All right. Yeah. So mine's not nearly that cool, right? Like I said in my opening, I was doing asbestos abatement around Lansing and around Michigan. Really, like we traveled a lot. And then, like I said, I woke up one day and I was just like, "Yep, not for me, man. This is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want something that's going to provide for my family." And so I actually contacted the recruiters. I thought about the Marine Corps a little bit. And then after talking with both branches, I ended up deciding on the Army, obviously, just because there's some differences, and we can go into that a little bit later. But so like I contacted the Army and I told my recruiter, I walked in actually they came over to my house. They're like, hey, let's set up an appointment and talk. And they're like, okay, so what do you want to do? I was like, I don't care what I do, honestly. Like, I just want a job that's going to set me up for the future and give me a massive bonus. Because at the time, I was, like, accumulating a lot of debt. I bought a quad, like 18-year-old, 19-year-old kids out purchasing just random shit and stuff. And no, that's okay. It is what it is. Like, I was out purchasing random stuff, and then, like, I had accumulated just a bunch of debt. random debt, and I was like, I don't know what the heck I'm gonna do. So I was like, I just need a big bonus. And so they're like, okay, all you gotta do is just take the test and see what you qualify for. Well, I got like I think I got a 70 something on it. I don't remember exactly what I got, but maybe a 65, something like that. But after the test, they were like, hey, you qualify for all these jobs. And I was like, awesome. And I think at the time, like MEPS had printed out what jobs, like 5 jobs or something like that I qualified for. And then, but maybe they didn't. I don't remember that whole ordeal. But we went back to the office, sat down, and they were just like, here's all the jobs that you qualify for. And then, so 35 Whiskey at the time was actually like a linguist / intel analyst, signals intelligence analyst. So like 35 Whiskey, when we see it on our end, is actually like a floater MOS. So I didn't know that. I thought it was the same no matter what. But apparently it's a floater MOS, and that's the job. So like they're just like, yeah, you want this one. You want this one because this is going to give you everything that you need. And I was pretty fortunate throughout my whole life. I never got in any trouble. Never, I didn't have any problems with the law. And I stayed out of trouble compared to most people for sure. In general,
you probably didn't have that mustache.
Yeah, I would have for sure been, a suspect number 1 with this thing. But yeah, so like they're like, you want this one, and it had a $40,000 bonus for 6 years, and gave me a TS clearance and all of this crazy training, and I was like, okay, that's the one I want. Well, so I had signed my initial contract, but you have 7 days. Or actually, I didn't tell them that's the one I wanted, right? This is 12 years ago, so I'm kind of going off of vague memory here at this point. But like, so I didn't choose that one. I actually said, hey, I got to go talk to my parents because, just like every single person here, I don't make a big decision in my life without talking to number 1, talking to my dad, and then number 2, talking to my mom. Like, and then I had my girlfriend / she's my wife now, but at the time, so I talked to her too. Her response was, heck no, I'm never marrying anybody in the military. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, if you want me to do anything with my life, then this is probably the route that we need to go anyways. But my mom was absolutely no. But my dad was supportive of it. And I think that's what helped kind of outweigh that balance, because this is what I wanted to do. But obviously my family played a big part in that decision too. But at the end of the day, I was like, I sat down and I just thought about it. I was like, look, none of these, I mean, outside of my wife now, but at the time it wasn't a girlfriend. She was my girlfriend. And I was like, none of these people are going to have to live with the decision that I make if I don't make it now. So I called my mom as I was walking into the recruiting station. I was like, hey, Mom, I'm signing up for the Army. I'm going to pick my job right now. And I just hung up. And that was it. And then she called me, and like she called me like 6 times, just pissed, right? Like she was livid. And I'll tell you what though, like after I joined and she saw what one basic training did for me, and then like all of the stuff that I kind of came back with, she talked to my brother and made my brother go join. So like, no, I don't know if she really did, but I mean, my brother actually ended up joining too. So like, and she's super supportive. I don't know if I've never met a more proud parent of doing it. So like, that's what helped. But so that's the long story of me leading up to that. But, sitting down with my recruiters, and then going into the office, I actually felt comfortable. I know a lot of people say, recruiters are liars, or they feel uncomfortable in this. And that's another misconception, right? That we didn't talk about on last episode is that all recruiters are liars. Like we can go in depth on that one, but because I did not feel that way. My recruiter, I didn't get lied to at all. My recruiter said, this is going to be a job that's going to set you up for your future. It has a huge bonus. It's everything that you want in your job that you were picking. And so, yeah, I got really lucky with my recruiters, but outside of that, like the whole process is super easy. And we're going to kind of go over that a little bit later, like what the process is now, but especially right now, because right now it's a whole different ballgame for us. And for
virtual.
People that are filling out and coming in and trying to come in right now, it's a lot easier because I had to make trips from, if anybody's familiar with the Michigan area, obviously. I grew up in Ovid, Elsie, so I had to make trips from Ovid to Lansing, or my recruiters would come to Lansing, and that's another thing that they did really well, is that they came to me if they needed something. It wasn't like hey, I need you to pack up your stuff and come 40 minutes to get this thing. It was like, no, we're gonna go 40 minutes to you to get what we need from you, and that's another thing that helped make me feel even more comfortable, is that they had no problem coming to me. So that's like my experience as far as the enlistment process. I signed some papers, I had to get them my transcripts and, all the paperwork stuff. And we're going to go over all of that here in a little while. But that's like, I thought it was super, pretty easy for the most part, like, because I didn't have any crazy things. So, but yeah, what about you, Sergeant Piper? What do you got? Sorry, I talked forever there.
That wasn't honestly that bad. So for me, it was a little bit different. As far as the backgrounds though, Rose, me and you are kind of comparable. I did floor installation before I joined the Army. So I graduated in 2004 from high school, went straight into the Union Local 2212 out of New Jersey. And then while I was working through there, I got into like a private company and I started working for them specifically. I was making really good money. But after just like 4 or 5 years, my back was already starting to hurt. Like my body was starting to hurt. I knew it wasn't something I could keep up for another 6 years and then retire out of that, with being fully functional. So as I was going through that, I was just like, man, there's got to be another way. So I actually had looked up, because my cousin joined the Army a couple of years prior to me joining. So I went down and I talked to the recruiter. But here's where I'm a little bit different, I think, is if a young man or woman wants to join any branch of service, that's a good thing for our country. Just period, hands down. So for me, I initially went and I what you would call the different branches. I talked to the Air Force, I talked to the Marines, and then I talked to the Army last. So the Marines, they were a little bit upfront and brash, which I could imagine most people would think that in general terms. The Air Force, they were very nice, but a little bit too nice. And then the Army, when I went in to go talk to them, they pushed me in a way that was manageable, right? So I met with the recruiter after introducing myself, telling him how old I was, that I was interested in joining. I worked for the Union Local, blah, blah, blah. He said, hey, let's go grab some lunch. On me, the Army will pay for it. I'm hungry and we should go sit down somewhere else other than here. So literally just met this guy and he wants to buy me lunch. So we sit down, we have some lunch, we're talking. He does all the prerequisite questions, making sure I'm not like a criminal or anything like that I'm graduated high school or have a GED. Very general, basic questions. Go back to the office. We fill out a bunch of paperwork. They ask these outlandish questions that I understand now why they have to ask them. But outlandish questions takes about an hour. And then I sign up to go take my test. For me, I only met my recruiter 2 times. The day that I met him and then the day that I went to MEPS. So the day that I went to MEPS, I did the night ASVAB, stayed the night in the hotel, and then I went and did my phys and enlist the next day. That's the second time I saw my recruiter. And then after I saw him that time, I told him, hey, I'm moving down to Atlantic City. My pops has a house down there. So I'm going to go. I'll see you in 6 months when I go to actually get on the plane to join the Army, because I had a 6-month wait time for my job. But talking to him initially, what really captured my attention about the Army, apart from the whole being very friendly at the same time pushing me to make myself better, without being kind of brutish, Um, he told me that the Army is huge on family, which, years later going through regulation and getting ready for boards for promotion and stuff like that, you've come to find out it's literally written on paper that families are the most important things to the Army.
Yeah.
Right. So when it comes to taking care of your family, when it comes to having a family, like they literally hook us up, both physically and mentally. But the other portion of me wanting to join the Army was not specified on a job. I didn't care. I just wanted to be a part of an organization that was larger than what I had going on in my world, which is only me. So I want to be a part of a huge organization. So in terms of my recruiter lying to me, it never was a thing. He promised me I'd be able to travel, I'd have a guaranteed paycheck, and that when I did have a family, the Army would take care of it.
Yeah. Yep.
Those things are 110% true. Even during this whole COVID-19 thing, like we still get paid the 1st and the 15th. We're still out talking to people, not physically. Back to what you were saying, it's very virtual. So like you can join the Army with only having to meet me once, right? We talk on the phone. I'll do the same kind of question and answer stuff that he had done with me that first time meeting him. And then you take your test from home. And then the only time you'd ever have to meet me, where you would have to, is when I take you down to MEPS to go do your physical and actually enlist.
Yeah. Sorry, I was gonna say, and you can't even do that right now, anyways. So like we're looking at
right.
a little while before even any of that even opens up. So.
Right, and we'll get into that whole process a little bit later too.
Yeah.
But to speak volumes towards, and I think all three of us share the same commonalities, and that's why we have this little podcast, is that I like to be very hands-on with the individuals who want to join and want to serve in the Army that we represent. So we're not just recruiters, we're mentors. Regardless of where you'll go throughout your career, if you ever need somebody who's going to help you out, we will always be a phone call or a text message away.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, and I always try to take care of, because obviously when people leave here, they go back to, their families are still back here. I at least try to reach out to them, once every couple of months, and I just say, hey, are you guys okay? Are you guys doing good? Like, when you're at basic training, because you can't take your family to basic training, obviously. So like they a lot of times, most of the time actually, they end up staying here, and I'll reach out to their spouse. And I'll just be like, hey, is everything okay? You guys good? Especially right now, like, who knows when they're going to get to go see their dad or whatever. Because I don't know, who knows when everything's going to open back up. But yeah, I definitely make sure that I try to at least touch base with everybody that had a spouse that stayed back, just to make sure that they're getting everything that they need and that they're being taken care of. So,
well, that's the great thing about wearing this uniform. Well, not the uniform I don't have on right now, but you wear, any person, man, woman, child who wears this uniform, this is the biggest family, just period, right? There's only one organization I think that's larger than the Army, and that's Walmart. But they don't have this. They don't have the same esprit de corps that we do. You know what I mean? Like, I was here for 2 weeks, and Rose was inviting me over to come hang out with his wife and kids. I brought Span over one day for lunch just to introduce him to my wife and kids.
Random drop-in.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of funny that you mentioned how you came in, Sergeant Span, because like it's changed a lot since then, but it's also changed a lot even since I came in, because I had to, like I said, like there was paperwork that had to go back and forth. Whether my recruiter brought it to me and I signed it, or I had to go into Lansing for whatever reason, which, it just changes. So I guess right now we can literally do everything virtually. I mean, from the packet building, as far as like the paperwork and the medical stuff that you have to do, because believe it or not, like not anybody can just walk into an Army recruiting station and be qualified, right? Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that we have to go through to even do that. But now they've made it so that you don't even have to cut relief and come to the office. You know, we can do a virtual phone call just like this on one of these platforms, and then we send you a packet from the Go Army website, and then you fill that out, and then we ask you a bunch of questions about your medical, and we basically build your entire packet without even meeting you, other than through a Zoom call, or through a FaceTime call, or whatever it is, whatever medium it is. And I think that speaks volumes to, like, one, technology, and then two, just how the Army has adapted and started utilizing this technology to make this whole process easier, because it's definitely a lot of stuff. So, but
One thing to throw on that.
Oh, go ahead.
One thing to throw on that, though, is just because you think you might not qualify does not mean to like completely put potentially serving on the back burner. Like, don't disqualify yourself without talking to a recruiter. A recruiter is going to let you know, and he's going to try his absolute best or her absolute best to work with you, to get you to be able to qualify. Like, one of the biggest ones is like overweight, right? All that takes is just having a good recruiter who's willing to work with you.
Yep.
I work out with a lot of my future soldiers all the time because they just happen to go to the gym that I go to. So we just link up and we'll go do a bunch of pull-ups, or we go running together, training for marathons right now. I plan on doing a lot of Spartan races over the summer and stuff like that. So I get my future soldiers, or even people who are interested, involved in the gym, period.
Yeah, another person that's really good about that is Sergeant Dixon in our office. He does the future soldier training, but outside of that, like, he's willing to take any individual that is willing to put in the effort and work with them as well. I haven't had a lot of people that have come to me that have had to do that, but anybody that he talks to, I know that he's always like, I mean, who was it? Nelson, right? He helped him get down a lot of weight to join. And I always hear him, "Hey man, I'm willing to put in the work with you. You just got to come in." So he's really good in our office, and I'm sure that every single office across USAREC has that person, you know. So what do you generally do with the people that come into the office, Certain Span? How do you, like, get them started on the process, as far as, like, sitting them down and then?
Well, before we get into that, you guys reminded me of a funny detail about my enlistment process. If you remember, I said that it was my best friend who talked me into going down and talking to the recruiter to join the Army, or, well, help his buddy, who I also knew, to, get promoted. So, we both go down, we both talk, and, he was good to go, like TDT. And he joined the Army as a helicopter mechanic. Well, he didn't end up graduating high school, so his contract got voided, and he had to, take summer classes or whatever. Yeah. So he doesn't end up joining the Army. I keep off the basic training, and I graduate basic and AIT. I come home, and he's like, "Hey, I'm leaving." Where are you going? He goes, "Oh, I joined the Marines." What? How'd that happen? Like, you were supposed to join the Army with me. What happened? So anyways, that the short version of that story is he really was only talking to the Marine recruiter because she was attractive. And in the end, funny twist as well with that story is she ended up leaving, and he got a new recruiter, and he ended up actually putting him into the Army. Just a funny detail. Like, I talked to a recruiter with my best friend, and then I joined the Army, and he joins the Marines 5 months later. So, but when someone comes into the office, my first thing is to figure out, what are their goals? Why are they there? Right? Like, are you here because you want to find out what the Army has to offer? Are you here because you know what the Army has to offer and you want some of it? Are you here because, you want to serve something bigger than you? Or are you here because, you just want the glory of saying, oh, I tried? Once we have that down, then it's, figuring out, well, how does the Army fit into your plan? What is it that you're trying to achieve? And can the Army get you there faster or better than the current path that you're on now? And then once we have all that understood, take a practice test, find out whether or not you're ready to take the actual test. If that's good to go, then we sign you up to take the actual test. One of the things that I really like about today, in one of the changes in the process and talking about technology like you had brought up, was we have the ability to test you right in our office. So the stress of going down to MEPS and, having to take this test kind of gets removed because we can do it right in office with people that you are already familiar with. And generally we see people score better that way.
Yeah, that's not to say that you can cheat on that test though. Like let's just get that out of the way. Like just because you're taking it in our office doesn't mean that we're gonna let you use a calculator or let you or if you're taking it at home, because you gotta go down and verify, which I'm sure you're gonna hit on. But I just wanna
Yeah, no, that's a good point, right? So after you take the test, whether it be the actual ASVAB at MEPS or the PICAT in our office, you're going to still go down to MEPS. You're still going to, verify the test that you took in our office to make sure that, a recruiter didn't take it for you or you didn't use a calculator like Sergeant Rose talked about. You verify that, you get that test score back, come back to the office, and we can start looking at jobs if, that's what you want to do. But ultimately what we're going to do is we're going to bring you back and, start really digging into your paperwork, making sure that we have all your references, your places that you lived, all that nonsense. Go from there.
Yeah. So I think it's important too, that we kind of help people understand why we're asking for all of this stuff. Like the paperwork that we require as far as like the references and so a lot of jobs that we have in the military in addresses, sorry. So a lot of jobs that we have in the military require a security clearance. And this is to at least help it make sure that you meet the minimum requirements for a security clearance. If your job doesn't require security clearance, it's just like applying for any other job, right? Like everything that we do up until this point is like a normal interview. My kid has been screaming at the door too. I don't know if you can hear him.
Yeah, I can't hear yours. I don't know if you can hear mine upstairs.
But yeah, so everything that like you're actually applying to join the Army. The Army is not like asking you to join, right? Like obviously, you gotta fill in references. We need past places that you live to do a background check. We need, and that's another part of the process, right? Is a background check. We're going to take your fingerprints. Let's just get that right out of like, you can tell us that you have no law, no violations, and that you've never been in trouble or whatever, but we're going to take your fingerprints and we're going to check. And then they're going to take your fingerprints again when you go to the MEPS. But the MEPS process is a whole different thing. We're going to check at the office. And then we're going to check against every single place that you lived with those police departments to make sure that you don't have anything. Because this is another like stigma thing, right? Is that we're looking for all the criminals. Well, we don't want criminals in our organization. It just is like no other company wants criminals in their organization. Are there things that No, I was just saying, are there things that will let people in with? Of course there are. What's up? Oh,
I was just saying, right? Like I had to have a waiver, right?
Right.
So I think to lend to what you're trying to say is that, it's going to the stigma of, we only take degenerates, we only take criminals. That's actually not the case. We are a premier organization, a world-class organization that's looking for top-notch talent. We want the best of the best because we are professionals, right?
Yep. Yeah, so exactly. So I'm not saying like we have a waiver process, and that's a whole nother process that you have to go through. And it could be long, it could be short. It just depends on the charges that you have. But we will let people in with charges. But it can't be like crazy and a crazy amount of things that you've done. But obviously we have our regulations and we got to follow those. So if a recruiter tells you like we can't work with you or we can't help you, that's not personal, right? Like I want to help every single person that I talk to. I want to be able to give those people either a second chance or help them achieve what they're trying to achieve. That's what my ultimate goal is. And sometimes we just can't make that happen, right? Sergeant Piper, what do you got?
Well, the only thing I really wanted to add on to everything that you said is, only about 30% of the population as a whole qualified for this job.
Yeah.
Like a really rough guesstimate.
I was gonna say I don't know the exact numbers. I'm sure there's studies out there, but
I would say like there's a really rough guesstimate. Only about 30% of the population can qualify for any branch of military service, right? And the Army has pretty loose exemptions when it comes to that, but there's other different branches that allow different things. A quality recruiter is going to make sure that if your heart's intent is to serve in any branch of the service, a good recruiter is going to lead you to the direction that you need to go.
Yep.
But the whole process of doing all the background stuff, doing all the paperwork, asking all of these questions, it's going to come from any branch of service is going to ask relatively the same questions. But then also, you're applying for a government job. You're not going to work for McDonald's. You're not going to be a fry cook. You're not, flipping burgers. You're applying for a government job that comes with some crazy benefits to include free education, free healthcare for not only you, but your family. You're going to be on salary. You're going to get 2.5 days off a month that's paid. Like for me, for example, I'm over the threshold right now. I think I'm at like 62 days of paid vacation that I have saved that I have to use before October comes. But I don't use it because we already get a 4-day weekend every month. That's paid for because we're on salary. You're not applying for like a basic run-of-the-mill job. And you're not serving with people who are wanted criminals. You're not serving with people who have ill intent. You're serving with the top 30% of our population.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
So I want to get off topic because this is one of my favorite things to talk about that Sergeant Piper brought up is, 4-day holidays. So when I was on active duty, we had a couple of details that might not have been like the best, most glorious things that we had to do, kind of like post cleanup, grass cutting, whatever. And so, a few of my battle buddies were complaining about having to do this. So our first sergeant brought us into the classroom and he starts drawing on the whiteboard. And basically what he was doing was breaking down the year, right? And now this doesn't apply to every unit. It doesn't apply to every soldier, depending on your mission set, your MOS, your job, and where you're stationed, it does differ. But as a whole, the Army actually works less than half of the year. If you subtract all weekends, all 4 days, and your 30 days of paid vacation, the number of days worked is less than the number of days off. And that was just an eye-opener for me.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I swear, like I couldn't, you always just think of the here and the now. And then when someone actually brings you into, the real box that you're inside of, and you start looking at the 4 walls, you're like, holy crap. That's pretty awesome. So sorry, off topic, but
so that's the kind of stuff that we're trying to bring to this,
Well, and then here's the opposite side to that too, is then you have these things that most people are afraid of, like deployments. where you work. For certain people, like for me, I work 7 days a week. I had a half day, 1 day a week. But I work 7 days a week. But I'm also making tax-free money with hazard pay. So I walked away from that with like 10 months. I think I made 40 grand straight to the bank.
Whoa, someone's mad.
Someone's kid is very mad.
Yeah.
But that's just from doing my like deployments. I was able to do my physical job. I wasn't cross training to do any kind of shoot, move, and communicate drills. I was just doing my job in a hardened building for 10 months, and it was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. So like getting kind of gonna bring us back on topic, and then we'll probably wrap this up honestly because how much time did you set a timer or what? How much time are we at?
40 minutes and 50 seconds.
Yeah, let's wrap this thing up. So what is the whole process? Give me like a 3-minute rundown. What's the whole process if you can in 3 minutes? I think it's pretty easy to do that. From start to finish. Start to finish. What's the whole process?
Me?
Whoever.
Okay. So call or text your recruiter or message, whatever. Find out if you qualify from the recruiter.
How do you do that?
The recruiter is going to ask you a bunch of questions during that initial phone call. If you pre-qualify, he's going to send you a practice test. Take the practice test. If you score above a 30, which is the national average, then you're qualified to join. Okay?
Test qualified to join.
Test qualified, right.
Yeah.
So he's going to send you an actual test that you can take from home. All right? You pass the actual test, then you start building your paperwork. That's going to involve, your residence, your character references, and stuff like that. When you actually go through and do all of that information, you can start picking your job virtually. Everything about what we're talking about right now is done from home. As soon as the no travel ban is lifted and we have the packet all completed, then you'll be able to sign up to go down to MEPS to do your physical and enlist. And then you just wait to ship out to basic training with the job that you chose. And then you didn't even have to meet the recruiter until you did your physical and enlist.
It's literally that easy. But what kind of source documents do we need, Sergeant Span?
You're going to need your driver's license, social security card, birth certificate. If you have a passport, that's always helpful as well. And then that's really it. As long as there aren't anything else, any other extra things that we may need to do for you.
So you said driver's license,
diploma.
High school diploma we need.
Yeah, that's the one I forgot.
Yep. And if you didn't graduate high school with a GED, yeah, or a college transcripts. And then we will have to figure out how to run fingerprints. I think they're working on that now. There might be a way to do it, but we're probably going to have to run fingerprints before we send people down to MEPS. So that's part of the process. One thing that we did not hit on is drug testing. So that's part of the process as well. Everybody has to pass a drug test like clean, not a little bit of, not like just minimal traces. And that's a big thing for us here in Michigan, right? Because marijuana is legal. The only difference is you're applying for a federal job. So you got to make sure that you follow federal rules, which it's not federally illegal yet. So
and it's not even to say yet too. We're giving you a job and position where you are going to handle weapons.
Yep.
The reason why like marijuana use versus like alcohol use, and I understand that they're both substances, they're both not good for you, but marijuana will stay in your system much longer, which means it affects your brain chemistry more. Whereas alcohol just lasts for 2 hours and it's out of your system.
Yeah, sometimes a little. I was gonna say sometimes a little bit longer. I've had some pretty rowdy nights. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah. So I think that like you have to pass a drug test, and that's part of the process as well before we can do anything. So, but if you have smoked, it's not like a no-go thing, right? Like we just need to make sure that you're not smoking for at least however long it requires to get completely out of your system. So like, if that's something that you want to do, we need to make sure that you're going to pass a drug test down at MEPS. So we will give you a drug test in our office. And that's part of the process, is that you're going to come into the office and take a drug test. So outside of that, there's a few more source documents, but you definitely have to contact a recruiter, because it's all personal dependent, like your personal situation dependent, right? Like some people have a passport, some people don't. So we don't need a passport if you don't have one, obviously. Some people have a GED versus a high school diploma. So it just depends on that. Some people don't have a driver's license, those kind of situations. So it really just depends. So you have to contact a local recruiter or contact one of us to figure out exactly what you need. But basic source documents, Sergeant Span went over, hit most of them. We need at least a driver's license, social security card, birth certificate, high school diploma.
Hang on, I'll be up in a minute, bud.
High school diploma or GED, college transcripts if you have them. Those are some pretty basic ones. And then that's like the whole process. Sergeant Pfeiffer gave a pretty good rundown. I think it's definitely important that you maintain contact with your recruiter. If this is something that you want to do, definitely, go to goarmy.com, contact one of us. At the end of this video, I have our Instagrams and our new Facebook page. So go in, follow the new Facebook page that I'm posting this video to, as well as YouTube. So once we
Closing
get there,
comments.
Yeah. Do you guys have anything else that you want to hit on, or?
Yeah. Hey, if you guys got topics that you want us to cover, if you want to know more about us, just hit us up on either the YouTube page, our social media platforms, and let us know what is it that you guys want to know about us or about the Army.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, my closing comment is, do not overthink the enlistment process. If you have even a general interest that you want to hear about more information and see if you qualify or see if this fits your lifestyle, a good recruiter is going to build a plan with you, right? So I like to be able, same as Spanik introduced earlier, I like to build you your life plan. And if the Army fits, great. And if it doesn't, also great. But you walk out of my office, or out of our office, I should say, with the knowledge that you know exactly the steps you're going to take to achieve your goals, period. Do not overthink that we're here just to get you into the Army. That's not what we're here for. We're career counselors.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we mention every single time. And I'll just kind of add on to that, is that that's exactly what we mentioned to people. Coming into our office doesn't guarantee that you're going to qualify, one, or two, that you're signing up for the Army. So if you walk in and you take the test, you're not enlisting right there on that spot, right? Like, a lot of people are hesitant to even take the practice test because they think that we're putting them in the system to join the Army, and then they're going to click on something and we're going to trick them into it. Like, that's not what we're doing at all. You, like I said in the video before, you're so far removed from even joining. You're in phase 0 of joining. We're just trying to determine whether or not you're even qualified. So coming into our office is not threatening at all. You're really just building the information and getting the information that we have, so that you can make the most informed decision that the most as possible. So, all right, guys, let's get out of here. Let you go take care of your kids, Sergeant Span. He sounds like he needs his dad.
Yeah, something.
So, all right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Like I said, goarmy.com, contact your local recruiter, or reach out to us on our Facebook page or Instagram pages. We'll see you guys next Tuesday.